In this edition of Southern Newsweek, Invercargill was treated to a huge collection of Ford Mustang cars. Our Queenstown reporter learns there is more to pole dancing than meets the eye. And a couple near Haas discover the impact of 1080 in the Makarora area. Hi, I'm Melissa Barton. Invercargill was full of Ford Mustangs and petrolheads last weekend. For the second time ever, the Southern Mustang Club hosted the National Mustang Convention, and Sharon Rees joined the crowds.
From the earliest 1964 and 65 models to the brand new 2017 editions, Southern Muster gave a chance for the public to view muscle cars from around the country. Over 170 Ford Mustangs lined the courts of Stadium Southland, with clubs from Hamilton, Taranaki, Canterbury and even Auckland showcasing a range of models and generations. Many of the cars were accompanied by the awards they had scooped over the years, and for the first time in Southland, the 2017 Hurst Ken Bell R-Code Mustang was on display from Auckland, one of just 50 in the world. The Southern Mustang Club hosted over 330 attendees from the 6 other Mustang clubs throughout the country. Sharon Rees, The South Today.
It was Grandparents' Day at a school in Greymouth recently, and the young pupils took time to display their work and art to their nanas and granddads. The South Today sent a camera crew over to take a look.
Grandparents' Day is an annual event at Greymouth's Greymane School, and it is proving to be very popular with everyone, according to school principal Mandy O'Sullivan.
At Greymane School every year, the Friday before Labour weekend, we celebrate our grandparents. We invite them into the school, and it's a time for our children to tell their grandparents how much they value them, and for us to give them the message that grandparents do play a huge role in the lives of our young people. So it's a celebrationary day, really.
O'Sullivan says school is a bit different compared to when the grandparents were pupils.
And our grandparents love the fact that school has changed so much, not like the day when they were there, especially in the digital classes where children are working on their devices and are able to show their grandparents, and also give the grandparents the opportunity now that the grandparents can go into their learning sites and have a look at what they're doing on a daily basis. So that's fantastic.
Both Barry Sweetman and his granddaughter Mackenzie have been learning heaps.
I've learned how to make a monster, how to colour in neatly, and there's just a few other small little activities. See how the kids operate. Thoroughly enjoyable.
We've been making monsters, and we've been doing some Grandparents' Day stuff.
Rudy Adrian, The South Today.
A new spin has been put on the narrative around pole dancing. Pole dancing was recognised this week as an official sport by the Global Association of International Sports Federation, and that opens the door to the possibility it might be an Olympic sport one day. Mina Amso reports from Queenstown's pole dancing studio.
Iranian-born pole dancing instructor and professional showgirl Raha Sangsari, also known as Raha Star, uses every single muscle to spin like this. She was at her Queenstown studio today taking a class of students.
It's a lot harder than it looks.
She began pole dancing nearly 9 years ago and says people often think it's for showgirls and strip clubs.
That's how it started. It started in the strip clubs. It started as a sexual expression of women. And yes, there was a taboo side to it, but it's just as what it is. I think that's as beautiful as what it has become now. And what's beautiful is that people can express themselves through it however they want.
Pole dancing yesterday was classified as a professional sport by the Global Association of International Sports Federation and could potentially become an Olympic sport.
Well, I think it's great for those who want it, and for them who want it to be that, who've pushed for it to be that, and I suppose for people to take them seriously in the sport, because I see how some people can get offended and they try and disassociate themselves with the whole stripper showgirl thing and be like, oh no, it's a sport and it's but it can be anything they want.
And Star sees pole dancing's new status might help it become more mainstream. Mina Amso, The South Today.
New Zealand's largest travelling event, the Extravaganza Fair, parked up in Dunedin over Labour weekend. Roselle LeBone caught up on the market stalls, food, musical entertainment and performers.
Every juggler and his dog were out enjoying the sun for the third Extravaganza Fair event on Dunedin's Oval during Labour weekend. Stall holders were peddling their wares and food and entertainment was on offer, along with jewellery, clothing, handcrafts, fortune-telling, haircuts and henna art. The fair has banned plastic bags and plastic straws, relying on only compostable and recyclable packaging, and it is aiming to become carbon neutral by donating to tree planting charities at the end of each season. The event tours the North and South Islands until Easter next year, with the next stop at Invercargill. Roselle LeBone, The South Today.
Love Your Backyard was the Department of Conservation's catch cry for Conservation Week. But what happens when your backyard consists of thousands of hectares of native bush? Kerry Waterworth reports on one couple's efforts to protect native birds in the mountains around the Haast Pass.
Dragging a dead rabbit through the bush is one technique used to attract pests like stoats and rats to traps set in the bush near the Haast Pass. This terrain north of Wanaka is the backyard of Upper Clutha Forest and Bird Committee members Andrew and Sue Pennicott, who have taken a day off work once a month for almost 20 years to check trap lines.
I first became interested in trapping when we moved up here and realised that the forests were pretty empty of birds. The forests were pretty healthy, but and there was becoming widely recognised at that stage that the big problems were all the stoats and rats.
The Pennicotts and 25 other volunteers are doing their bit to help New Zealand achieve predator-free status by 2050. But they are concerned it may be too late already for some bird populations.
And in a way, the populations are almost functionally extinct, even though there's still birds around. They're not actually a viable population anymore. It's it's a real worry.
Following a heavy seeding of beech trees, the Department of Conservation dropped 1080 poison in the Haast Pass area early this year. And the Pennicotts have noticed a significant drop in the number of pests now being trapped.
This year in Makarora we had our first ever 1080 because there was a huge number of stoats. January, February, all the young ones coming out of the nests and dispersing. They were travelling through the area. We were catching the most stoats we've ever caught on the two lines we had going the longest in January, February, and they did 1080 in March, and I think we've caught one stoat since in all this year, one stoat.
Birds that nest in a tree hole are the most vulnerable to predators, as stoats and rats can catch them in their nest burrows.
In many instances it's the females that get caught and eaten on the nests. And although you still might see mohua and kakariki around, a lot of them are males because the females have already been eaten.
On a day out with the Pennicotts this week, we found traps containing one dead rat, 4 dead mice, but no stoats. I'm Kerry Waterworth for The South Today.
Coming up after the break, a Dunedin artist celebrates her 50th birthday with some interesting self-portraits. And the New Zealand Kia is voted Bird of the Year. Welcome back. A Dunedin musician who sparked a bomb scare in central Dunedin has been found not guilty of committing a criminal offence. Dean Barnes told a judge in the Dunedin District Court recently his actions were about experimental music risk-taking and artistic expression.
Dunedin musician Dean Barnes, 44, denied a charge of threatening to damage property, arguing artistic expression. He told media after the verdict today at the Dunedin District Court he was vindicated to be found not guilty.
How did you feel when you were charged?
I was pretty stunned actually, quite gobsmacked.
The incident on June 16 involved Barnes taping a sound cassette to a Moray Place building accompanied by a note. Police took the view the note was threatening and closed Dunedin's CBD. Barnes told the court today he frequently utilised derelict or abandoned buildings to spread a political message about the homeless and disenfranchised. His supporters offered evidence of his previous work and called the June incident an independent release strategy.
What they did is released his record on the streets of Dunedin by sticking it to a wall. It wasn't a promotional structure for a record, it was actually the record release itself. It's called Street Noise because the only place you could actually get a copy of it was via the streets.
Barnes says his art is a reflection of his dark and moody music, and the police overreacted.
Somewhat a knee-jerk reaction.
Right.
Yeah.
And as the case was progressing today, the comments from the judge to the prosecutor, what were you thinking to yourself?
I thought that he was possibly getting a bigger grilling than I was.
Judge John McDonald dismissed the charge this afternoon, saying that in context, the words on the note did not constitute a threat. Roselle LeBone, The South Today.
A Dunedin artist is celebrating turning 50 by hanging an exhibition of 300 works. Covering My Bases spans more than 7 years' work by one artist who's showing much of this work in public for the first time. Daryl Baser found some familiar faces on the walls.
This image of a piece called Farts Are Funny is one of nearly 300 works by Dunedin artist Sarah Flourish, soon to be on display at Rob Piggott's gallery. Flourish turns 50 soon and thought what better way to celebrate than to have an exhibition of nearly a decade's worth of work.
This collection grew out of a little bit of an opera shop obsession where I started buying baskets probably 10 years ago. I wasn't sure what I was going to use them for initially, but about 7 years ago the purpose became clear, and we now have almost 300 works in this exhibition using the bases from those baskets.
The exhibition was hung this week, and gallery curator Rob Piggott says it makes an impressive and vibrant site.
It's kind of an exploration and a reflection of her whole life, I think. She's not one of those artists who's just gone out trying to paint a certain type of picture that's going to please a certain type of, person. She's just expressed all sorts of things from her life, and the work is just so diverse.
Much of the work tackles tough topics, like life changes, while other works reflect a desire not to take oneself too seriously.
This year in particular I have done a lot of self-deprecating works with the help of Snapchat filters, which I've really enjoyed. I don't send the photos to anybody, but I take the photos and I use them for my paintings.
Flourish says there's a special feature of the exhibition in which she plans to conquer a fear of needles.
The tattoo artist asked us last week who's going first, and I said it has to be me so I don't chicken out. And I think that there are a number of people who are going to come and watch me go through that process. So it's a little bit exciting. It's another sort of event for people to come and join in on, like the opening, where they can come and have a bit of a buzz with the crowd that's along here.
The tattoo is another part of Flourish's journey, which also included choosing her last name. The exhibition Covering My Bases opens this Friday at Dunedin's Rob Piggott Gallery. Daryl Baser, The South Today.
The Whyte 50 motorsport races keep getting bigger and better according to the event director. The event, which began in 1959, now draws competitors from around the country.
Putting the rubber on the road. An army of 200 volunteers are behind the event that's run in its current format for 8 years. Event director Rob Aikman says that the Whyte 50 is firmly on the motorsport calendar as it's growing year on year.
Well, we develop it and it just gets bigger and bigger, and it takes more organising, so much more infrastructure. We got so much, safety standards obviously have moved higher, so we got to build more and more infrastructure, which takes more and more teams. Our systems are just enormous now. It's a huge effort.
The 2017 Whyte 50 began last weekend, closing the streets and CBD of the South Canterbury town. The streets were again closed this weekend. Keeping with trends in motorsport, drifting was a feature this year. However, Akerman says one of the reasons this is his full-time job is to honour the history of the event.
I do it for the preservation of this event because it has a lot of history. So I'm trying to preserve the history. I think Waimati's got something really unique, and I want to sort of try and maintain that into the future because you know, there was a time when it was forgotten. You could ask any Waimati person what was a Waimati 50 years ago and then they wouldn't know. Now everyone knows, so you know, and not only in New Zealand, overseas as well. So you know, we have a name that's out there now, and I just want to keep that sense of history going because I think it's pretty special for our town.
Revived in 1991, the motorsport event's Waimatis Run Around the Houses, which began in 1959. Now it draws drivers from across the country to participate in the invitational, time trial and drift battle. Daryl Baser, The South Today.
Forest and Bird have named the Kia as New Zealand's Bird of the Year for 2017. The competition attracted a record 50,000 votes, up from 20,000 last year. The large green mountain parrot once numbered in the hundreds of thousands and could legally be shot on private land as recently as 1986. The bird is now classified as nationally endangered, with an estimated 3,000 to 7,000 birds remaining. Wildlife campaigners hope the Kia's new title will help raise public awareness of the threatened native bird. Other contenders for Bird of the Year were Kururu and Kakapo. Oamaru's Rainbow Confectionery expressed disappointment at the decision by international giant Mondelez not to produce confectionery in this country. The South Today found out more.
Rainbow Confectionery's General Manager Brent Bailey expressed his annoyance yesterday at the decision by multinational corporation Mondelez to withdraw all confectionery manufacturing in New Zealand.
I'm gutted for New Zealanders as a whole. I'm gutted that iconic Kiwi products aren't going to be manufactured in New Zealand. I'm upset for the employees down in Dunedin that we didn't have an opportunity to create further future employment opportunities for them. But at the end of the day, Mondelez has made a business decision that suits them best, and it is what it is.
While Cadbury lines such as Jaffas and Pineapple Lumps will now be made in Australia, the decision isn't going to affect Rainbow's Oamaru factory.
It's business as usual for us. I mean, we're a New Zealand manufacturer of confectionery products. We make the original pineapple chunk here in Oamaru and always have. They're still available to purchase in New Zealand. We support the local economy, we retain profits, we create employment. We're a major supplier to all the major supermarkets and route trade in New Zealand. So New Zealanders won't miss out if they buy New Zealand made products.
Rainbow Confectionery have been the main sponsor of colour runs in both Oamaru and Dunedin, and Bailey encourages the public to support New Zealand made goods.
I just encourage New Zealanders just to speak volumes by the products they purchase and support local manufacturers. That way we can return our support by increasing the size of our business and increasing the opportunities for employment and people.
Dunedin South MP Claire Curran said she thought Mondelez had never been serious about supporting manufacturing in New Zealand. Rudy Adrian, The South Today.
Coming up after the break, Queenstown Jazz Festival organisers reflect on what they could do better, and the Calendar Girls play opens in Invercargill. Thanks for staying with us. The Southern Institute of Technology hosted its annual Health Expo recently. First year Bachelor of Nursing students set out to bust the myths surrounding mental and physical health. Sharon Rees has more.
Addressing mental and physical health is no laughing matter, unless of course you're participating in laughing yoga. Using the method of prolonged laughter to benefit cardiovascular health and moods was just one of the practices promoted at SIT's Health Expo.
First year students have been working with health promotion, so we're trying to get health promotion messages out there about improving health. So we made the theme about Health Busters, because we know that there's a lot of misinformation out there about health these days.
With items like these beer goggles, students are busting the myths surrounding mental and physical health in a fun and engaging way.
We don't want health to be this dry topic where you go to your GP and then have that one-way conversation. It's all about engaging people, so there's lots of quizzes and games and fun activities that you can participate in inside.
Addressing everything from heart issues, blood glucose testing and breast cancer awareness to some of the least talked about bodily functions, the Expo was a useful experience for both students and the public.
It's been a really big learning curve for our students, but it's been really awesome to be able to see a lot of the public kind of have their ideas changed a bit and see some encouragement for them to change their behaviours for certain things, which has been really positive.
By lifting the lid on these health myths, organisers said the students were contributing to a more aware and well-informed community. Sharon Rees, The South Today.
Organisers of the 40th Queenstown Jazz Festival say the festive atmosphere attracted audiences in the thousands. They are already looking ahead to next year, promising a broader, developed and reinvented 41st festival.
Jazz lovers having a boogie as African artist Sam Manzanza jams at Queenstown's Village Green on Sunday afternoon. Festival organiser Luke Baldock says the festival was very well received.
Well, I think over the 4 days of festival, the community, engaged with the majority of the concerts that were both presented outdoors and also through the pubs, venues and clubs throughout town. And I think the atmosphere that was around town was fantastic.
He says a broader, developed and reinvented 41st Jazz Festival could be expected next year, but he's not giving details yet.
As a milestone, it's an opportunity to celebrate the past and provides an opportunity for us to look to reinvent and to create something that has significance and relevance for the next 40 years.
He says the focus for next year will be on quality rather than quantity.
I think that's one of the points of difference to the festival. We bring musicians from around the country, from throughout the lower South Island, Christchurch, Wellington, Auckland, and they're all leading musicians within their chosen field of music. And I think the offering that Jazz Fest brings is top quality performance and music offering.
Over 100 musicians descended on Queenstown for the annual Labour Weekend Festival. The lineup included world-renowned percussionist, vocalist and songwriter Nani Assis, who performed on Friday night at the Memorial Town Centre Hall. Other artists including Rumba's Soccer Practice and Pete Diggs, who stole the show on Saturday night. While swinging guitar, bass, drums trio headed by New York bassist Nathan Brown jazzed audience at the Sofitel Hotel. And for that last bit of jazz on Monday afternoon, dynamic duo Jeff Culverwell and Nick Van Dyke were there to jazz up crowds at the Gippsland Valley Winery. Details of the 2018 Jazz Festival will be released in a few months. Mina Amso, The South Today.
Invercargill women are bearing all for the repertory Invercargill's new show Calendar Girls. Based on the 2003 film, the stage show tackles some serious topics in a comedic and cheeky way. Sharon Rees has more.
Shaking off some pre-performance nerves is only natural, especially when you're about to go au naturel in front of hundreds of people. These women will hit the stage tonight for the opening of Calendar Girls, a play set to touch on every emotion.
It's got joy and laughter and friendship and also some tears and some poignancy. And it's about real life. It's about real people, struggling with their lives and what happens to them.
The play follows the true story of a group of women experiencing loss through cancer who decide to raise money for charity with a discreetly posed nude calendar. Newell says while the stage show is a comedy, its serious undertones struck a chord with the actors.
Even during rehearsal we've had quite a few tears when some of the chords of the play really hit home, and people have found that, that it resonates really strongly with them because everybody knows someone who has succumbed to cancer.
Lyndall Ludlow, who plays the lead role of Annie, says while posing nude on stage was a scary experience, the show presents it in a tasteful manner.
And I was terrified to start with, but we've all got a little tableau that we put together, and we've done it as sensitively as we can. It's what you don't see. It's, that's that whole kind of subtle, yes, we know they're naked, but we don't see everything. Otherwise, nobody would come.
To accompany the play, the cast also posed for their own fundraising calendar, which doubles as a program for the show, with proceeds going towards the Leukaemia Foundation. Sharon Rees, The South Today.
Crowds turned up to Rangura's showgrounds for that area's annual A&P show on Labour weekend. The South Today enjoyed an afternoon looking at the livestock and traction engines on display.
This year's A&P show in Rangiora was the 146th one held for the northern area, the first one having been in 1866. Amongst the usual sheep and cattle, pet lambs and calves, plus highland dancing, alpacas, horse events, goats, arts and crafts and vintage machinery, was film star Doug Bain. The poultry judge from the film Pecking Order said he was happy with the way his birds were judged at this year's A&P.
I've got a silky hen, which is different to most. This one has got a beard. A lot of the other ones don't have beards. Last week we had the Leaston show. I got the best light breed at Leaston with a black silky last week. I come here this week and I got the best light breed with a white silky. So I am quite proud.
One of the highlights of the day was Wanaka's award-winning country musician Jody Doreen entertaining the crowds.
If you want to get me hot, take your time.
Rudy Adrian, The South Today.
That's all from us this week. You can go online and check us out on Facebook and Twitter, or you can keep up with Southern News via our website, channel39.co.nz. I'm Melissa Barton, and thanks for watching.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.